Kevin is going to lead us in invocation and pledge the flag.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful to Thee for this evening that we have for the City Commission meeting, and we're grateful for all the people that work for the city and that live here and do everything they can to make Leesburg a good place to live and to do business. We ask Thy blessing to help us and guide us as we talk about the affairs of the city and the decisions we make this evening, and bless those that live here and work here. And we say these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, I think we're starting off. We have a presentation on the Veterans Park. Mr. Van Back.
The last time I was here, you weren't mayor.
It's been too long.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure you all missed me. Let me get my eyes on here. Good afternoon. It's been 6 months since I have brought the commissioners up to date on things we've been doing at the Veterans Park. The good news is that we are seeing more people visiting the memorial. The village newspaper ran a half page with pictures, and it's as a site to visit. Would you put that up, please? It was a nice article on us. I was really pleased to see that. In December, Leesburg and the Veterans Park also received state recognition when the park's executive director was inducted into the Veterans Hall of Fame at the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee. Just for the heck of it, I wanted to pass this around. Here, if you will. It was quite an event, I'll tell you, at the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee. First, thanks to DC and his crew for fixing the 2 handicap entrances to the park. He's been doing a great job for us there. We really appreciate it. DC, you're still here, aren't you? Thank you. We are presently in the process of updating the camera security system. The present cameras are over 7 years old, and they use an old technology. Our old system had 3 cameras. Our new system will handle 8 cameras. During the daylight, the new system will capture pictures in color, and in the night time, the infrared system captures activity in black and white. So whether it's dark or light, we will be able to do it. The pictures are like the high definition on your TV at home. It's really great. The 2 hard drives will be able to store 70 days of continuous video. We will be using only 5 of the new cameras at this time, but we will be able to use the other 3 in the future. We have also paid for the new system. We anticipate having the new system up and running by the end of the month. Any questions on this new system? Okay. We have located several Jeeps and will be making a decision by the end of the month, depending on the condition of the Jeeps we see. It may require some work. We anticipate having the Jeep installed next to the World War II monument by July 15th. Jack Jones, our architect, is currently making a concrete layout for the Jeep. Now, there is also a small tree next to the new World War II monument, and we would like to have permission to move it about 15 feet so we can get the Jeep in there right next to the World War II monument. We will, of course, engage a professional to move the tree, and we will pay for the cost. May we have permission to move the tree?
So this is a small tree, I assume,
Yeah.
since you wanted to move it.
That's not that big.
I don't have a problem with moving the tree.
What else is going on? I need to know what else is going on before we say we're going to move a tree, so.
Okay. Yeah, there's a possibility that we may be adding another memorial to the Korean monument. You want to put that up, please? Oh, it's up there already. It will contain the names of all the Korean War vets members in Chapter 169. I will know next week if this comes about. Both of those will be closer together. We are still working on the submarine project and hope to have it launched before the end of the year. And that's about it for today. Questions?
None from
I'm
me.
feeling bad, there's no
Yeah.
question.
You did such a good job, that's why.
Now, can we get back to the tree?
What's the tree for the Korean War or something
For the
different?
Jeep.
For the Jeep.
Have we approved a Jeep yet, or?
No.
We haven't.
No.
I don't think we need to, I don't think I need to approve moving a tree until we know we're approving a Jeep or whatever else we're gonna be doing, so. I mean, if that's why we're moving the tree for the Jeep,
Yes.
so.
So it'd be right next to the World War II monument. For your information, there were over 600,000 Jeeps made in the Second World War, which was astounding.
So could we maybe get a layout, and like what the Jeep's gonna look like, or something? So that because we would need to approve the Jeep location and putting it in there, and at that time we could.
And Jack Jones is doing a drawing for it.
Okay.
Let me follow up too. I know the commission had asked Mr. Van Beck to get with Dan Miller to kind of do a master plan of the park. Do you guys know where that's at? As far as how, did Dan ever get with you, Mr. Van Beck, about putting together a master plan for the park?
No, but I think we gave it to somebody.
I actually completed the master plan and resupplied it to him.
Okay. Once you get me a copy, and then I'll get with Mr. Van Beck and I'll get that to the commission.
Yeah, that would probably be the way to do it, is to approve a master plan, so you don't have to come and ask us every time
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
do something. So we'll
So
we'll follow up on that.
I'll be in touch with you.
Say again?
I will be in touch with you. I think where the commission wants to go, we want to approve a master plan, get everything mapped out, what you want to do, and then you don't have to keep making visits to us.
But I thought you liked to see me once in a while.
Well, we do.
I got the hint. Now if I can get my pictures. Oh, I was afraid you were going to take that.
Well, my kids would love this, so.
Let me put it in my pocket.
Okay, so now we have a presentation from ICMA, Jim Gleason.
Mayor, Council, City Manager, Al Minner. My name is Jim Gleason. I happen to be the City Manager for the City of Mascot, but I currently serve as the District 8 FCCMA, which is the Florida City County Managers Association Board Director for our area. And Leesburg is up for a recognition for its membership as being recognized as a city manager, council, commissioner form of government. Just a little brief history. The first appointment of an individual to a position similar in what we call today's local manager occurred in 1908 in Stanton, Virginia. They were a general manager and were employed to oversee the administrative functions of the municipality. The first formal adoption of the council manager plan took place in Sumter, South Carolina in 1912. And ICMA, which stands for the International City County Managers Association, was formed in 1914 and has served a number of essential functions for professional local government management executives. In doing so, the association has improved the quality of local government in which its members serve. In 1918, there were 100 local governments throughout the United States that were members. In 1930, that jumped to 400, and today we have over 3,003 ICMA recognized local governments. The professional manager, much like executives running a private sector corporation, bring together leadership, vision, and focus on results needed to create a better community. They manage financial and human resources, delivering services, planning strategically for a community development, using performance metric systems to drive continuous improvement, and committing to high ethical standards. The key core values of ICMA are ethical, leadership, accountability, transparent, respectful, collaborative, and disciplined, and they're what guide managers in their day-to-day business. I want to congratulate you all in the city of Leesburg on its 95th anniversary as being recognized by the International City County Managers Association for the form of government that you've adopted. And Mayor, if I could have you, the city manager, come out. One-man show tonight, so I'm going to have to take your picture. Okay, okay. You've been, all right. Mayor, you go up in and
Okay, all right.
Go into a couple. This is one. Two.
I'll send that on to FCC.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're one of the most dapper-looking mayors I've had the opportunity to see. Okay.
Okay, now we have a presentation from Amy with FMEA.
Mayor and Commissioners, it's award night for City of Leesburg. Thank you for having me here this morning, or this afternoon. I'm Amy Zuberly with the Florida Municipal Electric Association, and we are the statewide trade association that represents Florida's public power utilities, or city-owned electric utilities like the City of Leesburg. And I have 2 awards for you all this morning, plus a little bonus as well. The first of these is the FMEA Safety Award, and FMEA has recognized public power utilities who put a strong focus on worker safety as one of their top priorities for years. And the history of it is that utilities are placed into categories based on their total man-hours worked and rewarded for the most incident-free records. The City of Leesburg falls into Category B, which recognizes utilities of man-hours worked between 60,000 and under 200,000 man-hours worked. And so I am happy to present the City of Leesburg with a safety award for Category B. And I will give that to you in just a second, but I'll give you both at once if that's okay with you. And the second one is one that is very near and dear to me as well. It's our Restoring Communities Award. And this is the second year that FMEA has given out Restoring Community Awards. And we give those out to utilities who have had significant impacts for a weather-related event. And as you all know, Hurricane Irma tore through the state of Florida last September and knocked out power to nearly 7 million Floridians. And over 827,000 of them were from Florida's public power communities, which is about 60% of the customers we serve. And I think you all lost about nearly 70% of your customers. And you guys did an incredible job on restoring those communities and restoring your customers. The City of Leesburg outperformed the other neighboring utilities within the county, and so kudos to you all. You deserve this award, and I'm happy to present it to you. And the little bit of bonus that I have for you is that when we were getting these awards done, our awards company gave us a sample of one, and they did a sample of the City of Leesburg. And so then when they went to do the awards for us, they did a duplicate. So I have 2 of them that I can give to you all, which you deserve it anyway. So that's just fine. So you can hang one here and hang one elsewhere. But I have both of these. If Mayor, I could call you up, and Al, I don't know if you want to come up since there's 2 of those and present them both to you.
Chief, Burger, Brian. One more? Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, good stuff. And you know, the storms, as awful as they are, it's nice because it's the one time ever that people are happy with us and not complaining about their electric rates. So, put there. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission and staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item from the consent agenda. 2, vote on the remaining items with 1 roll call vote. 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. You have any items to pull?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, roll call, or any discussion from the public on that? Okay, roll call?
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Robuck?
Yes. All right, so now on to public hearings and routine items, of which we only have 1 tonight. If someone would like to introduce.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending Article 4, Chapter 25, Section 25-292, parentheses 24, City of Leesburg Code of Ordinances, establishing criteria for donation boxes, providing for definitions, permitting requirements, maintenance, local criteria, signage, exemptions, revocation, appeals and penalties, repealing conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Discussion. First reading.
I'll read that, yeah.
I do have some comments about it, though, just in reading through it a little bit here. So, number one, do we have to allow these at all?
It's the same thing, no.
Okay. I mean, can't we? I would prefer just to say no collection boxes, and myself. But if we're going to have the ordinance, I have some
Well, I
things.
think if that's the commission's pleasure,
I'm in the no box.
I think that the feedback is for 2.
I've got to agree because they don't know how to maintain them. They're ending up with garbage all spread around it. I agree with you.
I just think our staff shouldn't be wasting time trying to enforce what's an appropriate collection box versus not.
Yeah, I mean, because if you start going through the ordinance, and this is going to waste time here, so I apologize. But if we're not going to allow them at all, but the time to remove, it just says they'll remove in a reasonable time, and so I would think that if you're going to allow it, if there's something out there, it needs to be gone in 24 hours, and then you get to the enforcement issue with somebody having to go out there every time somebody's put some stuff there. You're exempting properties that are probably some of the primary culprits. I could think of the one over there on Griffin, for example. That's a not-for-profit that probably would argue that they recycle items, and but yet they're one of the ones that where these pop up and stuff just spews out there and stays. And so if they were exempted, then you've done anything to address that issue. So, and there's other ones too, but I just think if we can just say
Instead of having this on first reading, then why don't we just strike this and we'll bring back to you on first reading a prohibition. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I know you put a motion on the floor for first reading. I would just suggest to vote no on that, and we'll bring you back. Or we didn't vote on it.
We didn't have a vote.
So we're good. So we'll just bring you back.
just leave.
We'll bring you back a prohibition ordinance for the next meeting.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so now moving on to informational reports. Do we have any informational reports? Things to go over. We have the standard ones with
Yes, sir.
the write-offs
Just said,
and
yeah.
dispersed funds. Any discussion or questions on those? Okay, city attorney items,
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
city manager items.
Is there any? Can I just ask? Is there any update on the hotel there on that one?
We're still waiting on the summary judgment hearing to come up, which I believe is in June, if I remember correctly.
Okay, city manager items.
I have a few items, and then one I had listed in the agenda. Jack, while I'm giving these items, will you cue that presentation that we had? It's in the packet. If you go to the OptiView section, I think you can stick it up here. Can you?
Yeah.
So while Jack's hunting down that presentation so the public can see, in your packets, we gave a presentation that showed basically what the airport Wilco Drive improvements are. But until Jack looks that up, I just had a few other items for you. As you know, we've been working with a developer out of Ocala to work with us on the pad sites at Dozier Circle, as well as a potential lease of the marina. I think we're moving along okay on the restaurant sites. However, I think that developer's perspective was to link and partially some of the reasons that he was interested in the restaurant pad sites was the financial ability to hook it into the marina lease. In short, we received the marina lease, reviewed it on a staff level, and frankly, that lease I've determined not to be in the city's best interests. If you would like for me to bring that before you, I can do that. But in short, here's the summary of where the lease is at. The lease offered $80,000 a year to lease the marina for an initial period of 40 years. And then it asked for a series of one-to-one credits, so dollar-for-dollar credits on taxes, up to $25,000. Dollar-for-dollar credit on all improvements made. That would be docks, dry and wet docks, vegetation, aquatic vegetation removal. Long story short on that, with the one-to-one requirement, the developer posed somewhere between $2 and $3 million of improvements. So over the course of the 40-year lease, when you add all those dollar-for-dollar credits up, the city really receives $0 for the marina. And then the third issue that I think on a business level was concerning was they had a probationary period, if you will, where if the lease is canceled, I believe if it was in the first 2 to 3 years.
2 years.
Was it 2 years? The city had to pay back any improvement values. So the lease was really in favor of the developer. And then, of course, there were some legal issues. I don't think deal killers, but I think Fred had some issue with some subordination issues, again, with the way that lease was drawn up. Frankly, I think that was a bad business decision if we go down that route for the city. I've also been informed, whether through the grapevine or electronically or through email, that there are other entities who are interested in a marina lease. So my recommendation for the commission at this phase is kind of for us to take a step back, get back to finishing up, get going and finishing up and moving forward with the community center plan, and then doing a formal request for proposals again on other development opportunities that may be in Venetian Gardens. And I think that may too give the commission some opportunity to ensure that you're still on board with the concept of leasing the marina, or revisit perhaps where we're at with the restaurant concepts and those type of things. So my action item there for you really is at this stage, I think we'll just slow down. We'll notify marina folks who are interested that we're probably a few months out, and then I'll work with purchasing to put together a formal basin waterfront RFP again, and see once that it's more ironclad that our hard improvements are coming at the community center. I think that will help us lure in other developers, as well as hopefully increase the value once the community center improvements have moved forward.
I can go along with that. One of the things I'd like to see, however, the financials for what the marina currently brings in, what their expenses as far as repairs and whatnot, and give us an idea of where to go and what we're expecting from developers.
Yeah, your number one, your bottom line issue on that's that the marina makes somewhere around $150,000 to $180,000 a year for the general fund after expenses. Now, having said that, we are up against the wall a little bit. We do think we need to get a new forklift for the boats. That's an expense somewhere around $350,000. If we're with the marina, my recommendation for the commission is to move ahead and make that capital purchase. And then that, of course, would come out of the fleet fund. So we move forward with the marina in any fashion, we need the new
Okay.
forklift. This,
I could jump in here because Al and I talked about this a little bit earlier, so I'll throw this in instead of in later in roll call. But I want to say again, my concept of the eating at the at Venetian Gardens is that I really, frankly, I'm uncomfortable having a large restaurant or two large restaurants at Venetian Garden. I think it's against the trend in the restaurant industry to have large restaurants. I think it will cause too high of a price per plate for the residents of Leesburg to be able to eat there to make it successful, which will require that there'll be people attracted from other communities to come to Venetian Gardens to eat at those restaurants, which I'm not real optimistic that would happen. I do think there should be food at Venetian Gardens. I like the more trendy and more what the current market is for restaurants, which are the smaller restaurants where you do sit down and eat, but they're not the big high ticket per plate type of restaurants. They're the $8-10 per plate, and that there'd be several of them. There'd be like 6 to 8 of them. Whether it's the shipping container that I had talked about before, I pointed out somebody just went to Pensacola. One of our local residents was up in Pensacola. There's a development there that Pensacola did. I'm not sure if it's called Al Fresco, but you can look it up. And what they did is they took some Airstreams, the campers, and they converted them to several restaurants. So there's like a barbecue, tacos, just different ones that they have. And it's simple seating and walk up, order your food, and go sit and eat, and it's all outdoors. I think something like that would be attractive to people outside of Leesburg to come and eat. I think it would be more affordable. I think that it would be easier to sell outside. If you have 6 or 8 of those and you lose one, isn't successful, you only have to replace one small restaurant instead of 1 or 2 large restaurants that can get into a cycle of just failure, and then you just got a big 1 or 2 big buildings out there. I also think you can tie it into a social cause. We have an incubator, or we're putting a commercial kitchen in our resource center that we're going to train people to work in the restaurant business and to be chefs. I think you could connect that to it as well, to be able to incubate restaurateurs down at Venetian Gardens, and that would create that social cause to get people to come. I think we could do overlay zones within the city to give people who are looking for extra ways to make money to do something else that attracts people now, which is the outdoor gardening, to have some specific codes that would allow people to do outside gardening, including in their front yards if done properly, where organic food is grown and then we sell it at these restaurants down on Venetian Gardens. So you create a whole synergy and theme there of restaurants that are affordable, that have a social cause, that would hopefully be able to attract people from outside of Leesburg to come to make them successful. And I would prefer to see us go that way than to take the risk on whether it's that we build or that somebody else builds and then wants the money back if they don't succeed. In big restaurants, I think Taveri's just had an issue with a restaurant that they financed, and I may be wrong, but the story I got was that there was that they financed a restaurant there and it failed, and they didn't get their money back, and they're on that one. And so it's just against the trend in the restaurant business to have these big ones. And so I would prefer to see us just totally move in a different direction. If we did something like that, I think it would just be a matter of months if we could have them out there, and instead of, if we had these smaller, whether it's some permanent food trucks, shipping containers, something like these Airbuses or whatever it could be. So I'd like to see us move that way in the restaurant business.
Can we, because the one thing I think that's a interesting idea. The one thing I just don't want to do is I don't want to get in the restaurant business. I don't want to finance a restaurant. I don't want to pay to build a restaurant. I don't want to end up having a restaurant. Can we make the RFP open-ended enough where there's an option to allow that type of use? If if someone that knows restaurants would want to do that, I would have no problem doing a ground lease.
I think my suggestion for the commission at this stage is to put we're kind of in phase 3 of Venetian Garden improvements, if you will. The Kids Corner, Ski Beach, phase 2. Phase 3 was the community center redo Dozier Circle to get its maximum input. My suggestion for the commission at this phase would be put the marina and restaurant pad issue on hold. Focus on finishing up design specs and getting the community center started. Then we can entertain this conversation again on how we want to use that basin frontage along the basin area, how we want to use this property in association with how we're doing the site plan. So I think it's key that we move forward with the community center. I think that phase 3 of that concept was critical. I think we went into it with how we're going to use this property in its highest and best use. Now that we've had some struggles with putting together a lease, I think it's time to step back and use the opportunity to make sure we like our design and revisit the concept. Now that doesn't mean don't do the community center. I think we need to finish that off, but I think this gives you opportunity to make sure that as we move in and do other concepts around Dozier Circle, it's an opportunity to relook at it and
Well, frankly,
have
on the
discussion.
priority of everything we're doing at Venetian Gardens, the priority of where I would have put everything would have been first to put food out there. But yet we're gonna put it at the bottom of the list. So I would have done it before I put sidewalks, a new community center, did anything with the marina or anything else. I would have done the restaurant concept first, and then do the other things around it. I do think that we probably, if we don't have somebody that will come in and do it, I think we do need to invest as a city and to do it on our own. We are a major factor in just as an employer. We have a utility company, electric and gas, and so we're a major party in Leesburg, and I think that it's an investment that we may have to take the risk to do because nobody else may be willing to do it on terms that would be acceptable to us. But that we make a sound investment and risk in doing it, and we do it the right way, and the way that we think's best, and we get it done rather than to let it just keep waiting. And if it's next year or 3 more years from now, you still don't have any eateries out there. And again, I think that would have been the most important part of the whole picture.
Just a couple other issues, and Jack has got the airport update. The mall did provide their grant proposal for the FSL. That will be on your agenda next month, or next meeting. Based on the conversation as well last meeting when I brought forth the mission vision statement, I did get with procurement. We'll be starting a branding RFP, so we'll try to solicit some proposals on starting a branding process for the city. So we're probably going to be about 4 weeks out on that or so before I can get you more information on that. And then just a matter of information, during the budget process, because our discussion on the vision mission statement, which was agendized last week, went more into the branding instead of comments on the mission and vision and goal statements. What I'll do is I'll just incorporate those into the budget process as you saw, and then as we review the budget, we can modify and adjust those vision statements. So those were my comments for the evening, and then we'll move back and try to start a branding process, and I'll get that information to you. The last item I have for you this evening, the commissioner or the mayor brought this topic up at the last meeting. Where are we at with the gateway? So I put together a quick presentation on that for you just to get some input and show you where we're at. And frankly, the project is on hold, and we're seeking direction from you on how we'd like to move forward. So I'll say about 6 months ago, I think Commissioner Dennison, you brought this up, with what can we do to improve Echo Drive as an entryway. Back in the day, Echo Drive was really the primary entryway into the airport, because at the time we didn't have the air traffic control tower, and the FBO was on that corner of the airport, and Echo Drive really facilitated the best way in there, so we put up a entryway sign, which at this time is outdated because it's not the current logo. And really the center part of the service area for the airport is now off Wilco Drive. And it doesn't have an attractive entrance. That's where the administrative facility is, that's where our FBO entrance is, that's where the customs entrance is. If we really went into an area probably where we would try to do more commercial type of traffic, it would probably be from that location. So Jack, next slide. So the commission talked about really Wilco Drive is a better entryway into the airport. It's where the hub of the airport is, and it has the opportunity that if we do something there, can not only address the airport, but it can also make that 441 corridor more visible, better aesthetics, along with the improvements that we did. So we put together a project scope, which really was if we improve signage and link all the themes and ambiance that we've done with other entryway stuff like the 441-27 entryway, like the Dixie improvements, the decorative fence, use that motif and bring it out to the airport. We can also do some improvements to clear the pond that's there. We can camouflage the lift station, which is an extremely system critical lift station there, but it's not real visually important. But to relocate that, it's just financially not feasible, but we can probably camouflage it a little better. And then if we add some, again, landscaping and change the sign out, I think we can get a nice entryway there at the area. So we identified, Jack, if you hit this slide, a couple of challenges to the project, which is the elevations are hard. Again, we briefly talked about the utilities there with the water, the sewer, the lift station that needs to get done. And we were very hopeful that we would get some grant funding from DOT on this project, but because it's more of an aesthetic and an entryway and doesn't specifically do a lot to improve transportation issues, runway improvements, taxiway improvements, those type of things, we don't think on a staff level that grant funding will be provided.
You're still going after it, though.
We'll still go after that. They've pretty much in our preliminary conversation said no, so we can submit it and have them officially say no, which we'll do. But skip 2 slides now. So we did a bit of analysis. The cost estimate that we have on the project is about $315,000. So it's not a crazy big number, but our preliminary design looks something like that. The next slide shows just dimensions. It's about 42 feet wide. I think the number on that was 19 feet tall. And that would essentially go Wilco Drive and 441 on the south side of the road. So, and then we would put in landscaping and some other buffering issues for the lift station.
The only question I have on this diagram, especially with your heights and whatnot, when certain trucks come into the airport making deliveries or moving planes in there, you've only got a 14-foot clearance here. That is not going to be high enough.
Yeah, and remember we also have the Echo driveway.
Right.
So when we do have planes going in there, they're going to go into a service entryway.
Okay.
And they're going to go through gates that are more accessible to hangars in other areas.
Okay.
Which are on that east
Just
side
make
of the
sure that
airport.
the gates that we've got in place are big enough to handle this stuff.
Absolutely.
And the other question is $313,000. While it might not seem like a lot to you, I think for a lot of us in the audience, it's a lot of money. So I'd like to be able to look at this and maybe we can work something out as far as not so much money.
The budget's there before you. We can put this in as a budgeted item to look at as we go through the
Yes.
budget process.
Yes.
Because of the price tag on it and because there was, I think, no grant money on it, I put a hold on the project moving forward. Your request brought it back for your attention. That's
So,
generally
yeah,
what
this is not what I had in mind. It looks very nice, but I think it'd be hard to justify this given that we're strictly general aviation. This looks more appropriate for more like commercial facility. I was thinking something like the sign in front of Comcast. It was like 40 grand, but without the LEDs, like that type of like a monument sign just at Leesburg Airport.
That the next, what did we? DC that was about 25 grand.
I think it was about
38, 39.
So,
Yeah,
so
and then
about
maybe some
40, 50
landscaping,
grand.
so maybe like 75. We could get some nice landscaping and a sign. That would be what I would be.
I would suggest to, and we're about to close on the Jenkins property, so that'll bring about $2 million to the airport fund. So they'll have some available cash to do such a project. So I would suggest that as we move into the budget process, we take another look at this.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see an option of a small sign and what that would.
In the interim, we'll come up with another concept and another budget so you can kind of compare the Cadillac to a Buick plan.
Because we potentially have some. I know we have the money from Jenkins, but there's also a lot of very expensive, long-term projects that need to be done at the airport for access.
One of the other issues there is we're working on a master plan. The master plan talks about land acquisition, the additional hangars construction, and these type of things. So yeah, there are going to be a number of, and those projects that are in the master plan are going to be more of the prime projects that will be able to leverage with some grant funding. So with the injection of cash the airport's getting from the Jenkins sale, I think it'll be important to kind of pick and choose what projects. So
Absolutely.
I think the budget opportunity here again coming forward to give us opportunity to kind of plan for some of that.
Okay. All right.
With that, those are all the items I had for the commission.
Okay, so public comments. So do we have any public comments? To just try to keep them to 3 minutes.
Alan Reisman with Firehawk Helicopters. I know we talked about Echo as being the service entrance, but because the roads aren't, we bring a lot of aircraft in and out, and they're over length, over width, and over height, and the Wilco entrance is our best entrance, and we worked with Brian to use his gate. So I just want to make sure if something does go in there, the height is looked at. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from the public? Okay.
Wait a minute.
Roll call.
Wait a minute. There's a lot of folks here. Who is, I know there's a lot of people here. Isn't there somebody that,
Do you want us to come up one at a time?
please?
One at a time.
Yeah, otherwise you just missed your opportunity.
Okay.
So
I thought
we don't want that to happen. Or I don't want it to happen.
Just kind of wondering.
City Council, I represent my husband and myself, George and Madeline Charland, 4033 Arlington Ridge Boulevard. We respectfully come before this council to question why, in 2003, residential land was annexed directly abutting a heavy industrial zone. GI Shavings on County Route 33 in Oklahoma, Florida, runs noisy equipment, emits nauseous odors, and overall has destroyed the peaceful atmosphere of our Arlington Ridge retirement community. We moved to Leesburg October 1st, 2014, having chosen the Arlington Ridge community, Lot 277, which is at the flag of the 11th hole, for its beauty, quietness, and woods, which reminded us of our property we left in the north. We enlarged our lanai so we could enjoy that scene. We first observed some activity late in 2016. In the fall of 2017, we observed dark smoke and noxious odor at various times coming from GI Shavings polluting our air. Soon after, the very loud noise of the heavy equipment became a great nuisance while eating meals and even conversing. The hours of operation have increased to such a degree that the only day off is Saturday, which leaves us only one day to entertain. You can't open your windows at night to sleep anymore. Some people are early risers and retire early in the evening, and the equipment starts early around 6 a.m. and goes oftentimes after 10 p.m. We came to retire and are now plagued with this business. If they could only go 7 to 4 p.m. and not on Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. Easter Sunday was terrible. We would consider that being a good neighbor. What concerns me is how this company could get permission to operate next to a 55-plus retirement community, and are asking the City Council to work together with us to find the best solution in this matter. And I have to say something I haven't written here. Today, the noise was so bad, it was shaking my house, and I thought that there was a tornado coming. So I jumped up to look, and I looked to see if the furnace was going to explode, and nothing was, and I opened up the door. It was so loud, and it's been like that all day. It's maddening. Thank you.
Thanks. And so I spoke to one of these residents. I don't know, maybe
I don't know about this.
This was many months ago. So just a little background from what I looked into. So obviously the subdivision is in the city of Leesburg. GAI Shavings is in the county. It's always been zoned industrial, but until recently it was a trucking company. So they weren't creating the same issues, but the zoning's always been that way. And then the use changed, but still industrial, and that's where this is coming from. I spoke to my aunt Wendy on the county commission, and she was going to look into it from their side. But my understanding is that there's not really anything, unfortunately, because I wish there was, but that we can do. I mean, we could write a letter to the county asking them to address it, I guess.
Yeah, this is
I'm saying that legally, I know, but, you know. Okay.
Okay, if you say, I may not even read what I have then, we'll just go off what you just said. If there's nothing legally, then we should not be required to pay our taxes to the city. We are paying our taxes as residents.
I understand, but maybe
How can you say you cannot help us?
I can't regulate a business outside
mission
the city.
statement outside, which is professionalism and caring. Where is the caring for this elder community? I'm the youngest in there. Every one of you are sitting here because of your elders. They are being abused. I'm younger and healthier. You have vets in there, which I am one also. You have people with disabilities in there. That is also wrong. How can you say as a mayor or as a city where we're residents and we pay our taxes to, that we reside here, that you cannot help us?
So maybe Fred, could you chime in on legally what we can do when property's in the county?
It would, if it's outside the city's jurisdiction, the city has no regulatory authority to tell them what their hours of operation can be or how much noise they can make. That's within Lake County's jurisdiction.
So where do
you
we
really
go?
ought to be packing the county commission chambers into
Where
theirs.
do we need to go? Okay, is that where we went already and spoke? Okay, we've been there and spoke.
Well, they're
So
the
then it
ones
sounds
that
like a
have the
senator
ability.
or a governor problem that needs to be addressed then. We'll have to take it there?
They wouldn't have any authority either. It's a local government problem, and it's Lake County that's the local government that could do something about it. It's like if you live...
I wear these in my house. Many of us have already served our time in the military. I feel that I am in a war zone. The smell that comes from this plant burns my eyes like the gas chamber. We live with this 6 days a week. Now, I hope someone with a conscience, whether you're saying it's your job or not, digs deep and does the right thing as a human being to help people.
And what I'm trying to explain is I would love nothing more than to help you with this problem. I understand the issue. I looked into it. I found the company that owned it. I called the county commission.
We've done that.
But legally, we don't have the authority to do anything. I mean, no matter how much we want to, there's literally nothing that we legally can do.
I would just, not to give legal advice. Let me just throw one thing out here. So not to
get a
give
lawyer.
legal advice,
We'll
but
get
you
a
might
lawyer.
want, if you haven't already, talk to
We'll get
an attorney, private attorney, about possibly a nuisance claim against the...
What about the Environmental Protection Agency?
No, against the...
We've also called them and tried to complain with them because they're not following the guidelines on that either.
Have you spoke to anybody from the city? I'm assuming nobody from the planning department has made me aware of this problem, so I'm assuming you haven't spoken to the city planning department.
Some of my other neighbors can tell you they
So
have.
Dan knew about this?
My name is Sherry O'Brien, and I have spoken to the mayor. I have spoken to planning. I've been here and read the minutes of the county or the commission's meeting when this first occurred and it was annexed in as a city. What I'd like to do, part of our reason for coming is to make you aware of what we are facing. We have worked and called the Department of Environmental Protection. They are the ones who issue the permit for this company. When we first built our house and moved to Arlington Ridge, that company was not there. It didn't start up until 2016, and I have a list here of when they first applied for their permit, the many times they asked for extensions. There were 6 to 7 times, and I do have this in my notes if you want a copy of it. But when they did finally start up full blast, it was at the end of 16. Through 17, they started having violations. They had August 25th, 2017, they exceeded what they call the particulates that come out of the smokestack. And then again in October of 17, they again exceeded it. So they had 2 violations. They were supposed to correct it, and instead of correcting it, what they've done is gone for a permit with fewer restrictions. The fewer restrictions are they won't have to measure what's coming out of those smokestacks. They're going to get rid of the hours, which means they could go 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We have repeatedly called DEP, different staff there. Now they have one main person. His name is Dave Herbster. We report to him when there's smoke coming, when they have restrictions about the wind, the smoke that goes across the community. They look at, we talk about noise, but they say they don't monitor noise, go to the county, which we did about 2 weeks ago. We went to the county board meeting, and all of us got up and each had a position of what we presented to them, informational-wise. We realize we're working with a state agency, a county agency, and a city. And what we're asking is all of them to be informed of what's going on and work together to come to some type of resolution for this community.
What was the name of the shavings company again?
GI Shavings.
GI, that's right.
Incorporated.
And, you know, I would just ask Alf if we could just look at it to see if there's anything that we could
I
do.
also brought with, if you want to see,
I was trying to talk, ma'am. Okay, so I wasn't finished.
My suggestion was...
Al, I was just going to ask if you could go ahead and look at it and see if there's what we could do. But I was just going to suggest as well, and I'm not an expert in this law by any means, but there is, I believe, causes of action for nuisance, and that essentially has to deal with your loss of enjoyment and use of your property to the extent that it's causing emotional damage to you, which I clearly hear in the things that you're saying. And so if you haven't already, or if you have and you didn't get the answer you were happy with whoever you talked to, I suggest you go talk to a private lawyer about that, because regardless of what we can do or the county can do, there may be something that creates a civil cause of action that you could possibly have.
And here was what I was going to offer. To a degree, I don't know what we can do, but perhaps, and that's why I asked if you were with the planning and zoning staff. So I'll catch up with our planning and zoning staff, see where we're at on this issue, and perhaps if it's something to where we need to review the situation. We need to see if the county's holding true to some of their local land use ordinances, and maybe we can throw our weight with our professional expertise to get the county if they were overlooking something. So maybe we can use just some of our weight, our issues, our knowledge to let the county know that they're not implementing something in their own land use planning. And for example, the first thing I'll go look at is, are they in compliance with the Navy overlay ordinance that the county adopted, which restricted industrial development in that zone? I don't know how this, I don't know what the grandfather clause on that, this is just a knee-jerk reaction. But the purpose for bringing this up is, for us to use our expertise to figure out where we're at, how this is affecting the area, and then what we can regionally do. Now, that'll take a little work. It's not going to happen overnight, but I got 403 Arlington Ridge. I know you gave your name earlier, so I'll cross-check that and be in contact with you. I need to get in touch with the planning and zoning staff, and I'm going to kind of assume that you were spearheading this, so you'll hear from my office.
Can I just ask, do we want to give them a list if they want to write their name down, or their phone number that they can
If you have that, please give it to Andy Purvis, our city clerk, and I'll start with your first representative as a contact. But I have some internal work I'll need to do with our staff, and we need to have some preliminary stuff. This is the first I've heard of this issue, so you unfortunately caught me off guard. That's not good or bad. But I'll get with staff, and I'll come back, and I'll make a presentation back to the commission with some recommendations. And I don't know what those will be, but
this is not just Arlington Ridge. When I've opened my windows up, I live in Legacy, right across the road.
Okay.
When I opened my windows up, now that it started cooling off, I thought it was the incinerator. So it's obviously more than that incinerator burning. It's got to be that plant. So I would like to throw my support behind this as well.
I was going to ask also, I brought with the 2 requests that company had to DEP and what we did as far as a petition. So if you're interested in this information, just to look at what we've done. If you have copies of those,
just please leave them with Andy.
Okay.
And you'll hear back from us.
Okay.
Are there more comments on that?
I'd like to go next.
Yes, sir.
And I had 2 pages of notes I wanted to speak about, but hearing what you had to say, I'm going to cut it down to Mr. Bone over there is correct. As per the County of Florida Code Ordinance, Section 14-34. It's a nuisance law pertaining to air pollution and noise pollution. And it says in there, things can happen. Noise pollution can cause numerous health issues, heart disease, strokes, hearing loss, stress, mental health problems, blood pressure problems, and decrease in memory. We don't need that. We're already losing our memory. Okay? So again, that's section 1434. I'm an engineer, and I moved down here 4 months ago for retirement. And I'm not retired. I'm so mad about this problem of noise pollution and air pollution. I also have a problem with my lungs, which I acquired during my stay as an engineer. I'm a civil engineer graduate, but I worked in mechanical engineering all my life. Unfortunately, they needed a mechanical man rather than a civil man. And I have a problem with my lungs. The smell from this place, GI shavings, really affects me and my neighbors. It burns our nasal passages, our throat, and in my case, my lung, what's left. And I really wish you could do something for us.
Just enforce the law.
Just enforce the law,
That's what we're asking.
which is the law I cited here, Mr. Attorney.
Elderly abuse is a felony.
It's a felony.
And don't you consider what they're doing to us a felony? That we can't, we're prisoners in our house?
We can't go outside.
I mean, so who's gonna?
My wife and I go out looking for another home. We love that area.
You're our city. You're for us, your residents. Can't you help enforce the law somehow they're breaking?
They're breaking the law.
I mean, where do we go to? They're on Route 33, which is what, Oklahoma or something like that. But they have a Groveland address. And yet they're behind us on that street. What are they playing? All these
What are
different
they burning?
addresses.
It's like a carcinogen. As an
It's
engineer,
cancer
I know what a
causing.
carcinogen is. And I'll tell you right now, I think that's what we're getting over there in our neighborhoods.
For something to be so black when it comes out and just spread over the whole neighborhood, that's pathetic.
Something burns our noses, our throats, and in my case, my lung. Gentlemen, I plead with you. Please help us.
Or tell us how to get the law enforced.
And I'll save you all the reading that I had here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg O'Brien. I live at 4041 Arlington Ridge Boulevard, which is adjacent to this GI shavings plant. I'll skip what I had prepared also, just to get down to brass tacks on it. When the city annexed Arlington Ridge in 2003, you did it for a tax base, right? Okay, well, I know the idea of a 300-foot buffer zone is what you put in there. So I'm going to show you an example of what your 300 feet do for your buffer. I've got a recording of what it sounds like.
All day long.
16 hours a day. This is 300 feet. This is your buffer zone. So I think your zoning and planning have to address the issues. I mean, that's what your idea was when you put the buffer zone in there between residential and industrial, that this was going to take care of it. Well, if they were making, widgets over there in an enclosed building, no problem. The 300 foot is adequate. But when you've got a manufacturing facility, which is putting out smoke and noise constantly, at 300 feet, the noise does not stop. At 300 feet, the smoke does not stop. It continues across the whole community. So the planning and zoning has to look at this in a different way as to, okay, you've got a buffer, but what will you allow inside on either side of this buffer? I mean, there's got to be more thought process put into this, the way it looks at it. What else was nice? Well, I guess the other part was the tax base. GI shavings taxes are $17,282, according to the tax site. Arlington Ridge puts in $2 million plus right now, and will be $3 million plus by 2020. We want something for our money. Tax records show that GI Shavings address is Groveland, Florida, not Oklahoma. It says it's a warehouse. On the land use, it says it's a warehouse. It says nothing about a manufacturing facility. So apparently, the information that I have, according to the tax records and the websites that you can go on to, this place is operating illegally. Because it's in Oklahoma, it's not in Groveland, and it's a manufacturing, not a warehouse. So would you help us move it back down to Groveland? Thank you.
that easy, believe me. We would love to do so. So yeah, I think, I mean, you heard from the city manager. We do want to help. We're just in the situation that there's not a clear answer we can give you tonight that we can do this and make this problem go away. So staff's going to look into it, and then maybe we're going to have to put some pressure on the county, because unfortunately that the GI shavings is in the county, and we don't get to zone them. So we'll do that. You have some more comments?
May I just add?
Of course.
I appreciate everyone. They've been here longer than me, but I just wanted to add two more things that I thought were unusual. Besides the smell that's irritating people's throats and lungs, I never suffer from headaches, but I'm telling you, I have a headache after I've been out there for 2 hours. And we all moved to Florida to be outdoors and enjoy our beautiful pool out in the backyard. We can't entertain, we can't do any of that. I also noticed that animals are much smarter than humans sometimes. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but the lack of wildlife that we've enjoyed and have loved listening to, the crickets, there's considerably less of it. I don't know if it's a migratory thing this time of year, because we've only been down here 6 months, but we just see like they know where to go to protect themselves from that abuse of noise. So that's another thing that is a loss to us. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the noise level will affect humans and animals.
Thank you.
And that's all on record in the county report that I gave.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I would just.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to, if you want comments, we got to take them up front, because you have to introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Michael Becker. I live on Manassas Drive, just outside of or within the noise area. Mm-hmm. And I just have one simple statement to make. I hear you all saying that there isn't much you can do about this because they're not within the city of Leesburg. And I understand that. But the thing that you have to recognize is that all of their pollution is in the city of Leesburg, both in noise and in smell. And if you had somebody dumping sewage that ran all the way down the road and right into Main Street, even though it wasn't in the city of Leesburg, I guarantee you'd do something about it. And we're pleading for you to do something about it, because they are polluting within Leesburg.
That's why
doesn't matter where they're at.
This is why we're going to try to help.
Polluting within Leesburg.
Yeah, that's why you're hearing from us. We're going to try to help. But,
Thank you.
You know, might take a little bit of time to go through all the stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Comments?
Basically, my name is Robert Blasey. I live at 4017 Arlington Ridge Boulevard. As my neighbors had mentioned and said, we're in a rough situation here. I appreciated the way you made mention about some of the things that you had talked about earlier in the evening, and your efforts to make sure that your planning for the waterfront property is going to be taken care of properly. So there is some concern. Some years ago, I think somebody just dropped the ball. Didn't really think about the consequence of what would happen with a company such as GI, and it needs to be addressed. I take decibel readings on a daily basis, and the difference between inside and outside the house is somewhere between 30, 40, and even 50 decibels. It's really ridiculous. I have recordings also. I'm not going to play them for you, but get an idea of like 14 to 16 hours at 6 o'clock in the morning. This company starts off, and you know, I didn't retire to be awakened at 6 a.m. My days of getting up at that hour, I resolve myself retirement. I don't get out of bed before 8. They make sure I get out of bed before 8. So please help us. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so we move on to roll call.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yeah, I've got a couple issues. First, let me make a promise as your commissioner and representative for Arlington Ridge. This is a problem. And I'm serious about the smell that I smell coming in my windows. I wake up, I can't breathe, my sinuses are blocked, I'm coughing all the time. So I know what it's doing to you. I don't have the noise, but I do have that smell coming across. So it is an issue, and I will keep track of our city to make sure that they are working on this, and also getting a hold of the county commissioners, because they have got to either make a personal visit and just see what's going on. Don't, stay in your high towers and preach. Go out there and see what's actually going on. I have two other issues. First of all, I want to thank the Lakefront TV for the amazing job that they're doing with Lake Square Mall. They've started a new program with them called At the Square, and it utilizes some high school students from Eustis. Although it's county, I would like to see Leesburg High School start to get involved with videography and whatnot, because we've got the company right here that can help them learn and help them get involved with other situations. So I do have some letters here. I understand that the other commissioners received these, including a soundbite from the mayor complimenting Lake Square TV, Lakefront TV, with what they are doing. And I would like to place my congratulations to them on the professionalism that they show, and that compliment. Now, another issue that I've got. I have been away from the commission for a while. As you see, I'm in a wheelchair. I had an accident before Christmas, and I was on company time in city property when this happened. So I have been keeping in touch with the commission on what's going on and whatnot. My concern is that the city of Leesburg is not receiving updates and information on what's going on around town, what's happening as far as economic development. I have received nothing. And as a commissioner, receive nothing, I know you're receiving even less. So I want to make sure that the city manager understands that I am still very disheartened by what's going on here with the publication and the information. When our previous PIO was here, we had an economic development letter that was issued on a monthly or quarterly basis so that everybody in town knew what was happening. I think the communications are breaking down in this city. We've heard nothing about the Bike Fest, which is huge. We've heard nothing about the fish fry, which was held last week. I can go on and on with what I have not been hearing about. And I've been hearing complaints from citizens asking what the heck is going on. There's plenty of money that we see being thrown around, but what's actually happening? So I'm asking that this be improved upon and we get this information out to the public. I don't need somebody who forwards a county publication to me, which I already received from the county. And that'll do it for tonight. And I will keep in touch with what's going on over at Arlington Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Bowman.
Welcome, Commissioner Dennison, back.
Thank you.
Just having you here. So good to have you back. So, and again, I hear what your concerns are about your homes. There's nothing more valuable to someone other than your family, your husband, your wife, your children, than your home, where you live. And it's a major investment, and it's monetarily, but it's also where you want your peace and quiet. So I know we're going to look and see what we can do to try to help on that. I've got several things. One was the restaurants, and so I'll try to just hit these real quick here. I want to congratulate the mall on their opening that they had, the event they had the other night. It was terrific on Saturday evening. Also Bella Fair, I think, who put that event on. They took the J.C. Penney's and they put a little facade on the front of it as you enter in there, and it was just fantastic. What they did with their fashion show. And then those new stores, the 4 new stores there are just first-class stores. Those are major commitments from the retailers who have come from Canada, the designers there, and they're really nice stores. And I encourage everybody to go there and patronize those stores as well as the others that are in the mall and that are going to be coming. That being said, I kind of give me a chance to echo in a little bit on what Commissioner Dennison just said too. We've also committed as a city to make a substantial investment to match grants up to $500,000 to help the mall and in some of the plans that they may have there. So that's a major investment that we potentially make. And with all the good, so this is not to take away at all from the mall and the event that was the other night. I frankly was a little disappointed that that maybe we as a city could have done more from our public Affairs as well, or Economic Development, whatever it was, to have had to reached out, and I don't know what we did, but to have reached out more to Lake County, to the commissioners, the economic development team, the other cities, Mount Dora, Tavares, Eustis, whoever, that there would have been more presence there, because we do, this isn't just Leesburg's mall. This is a Lake County mall that's going to serve the region, and there's no reason that someone with those stores that are coming in there, that someone should have to go outside of Lake County. And so I would have liked to have seen, I don't know what we did, so I'm saying that, but I would, if we didn't do enough, I would hope that we could do more next time to help to make that relationship between the success of the mall being connected to to all of Lake County, particularly North Lake County. But it was fantastic, and I'm so excited for what's happening there. Just bring real quick are we working on a homeless ordinance right now, or?
Yeah, we are working on a panhandling ordinance. You're going to have a presentation from the chief of police at the next meeting to talk about the issues, which will set the stage for giving us some support to pass a homeless panhandling ordinance.
And I don't know where the base is that's coming from for the ordinance itself, but I think St. Augustine just passed something.
The city of Orlando is the model that we're using.
Okay, well, St. Augustine just did something as well. So could you take a peek at St. Augustine?
We will. We will. We've used Orlando because it has been tested, and they've had some success with it. We'll take a peek at St. Augustine as well.
I haven't seen Orlando's. I did peek.
They're pretty similar.
Are they? They're based on the same. That's what happens a lot of times with municipalities, as they change things, is they kind of.
St. Augustine's a little more tailored to specific tourist issues, which we're not quite as much, but they're pretty similar from what I can tell. But
yeah, a lot of it was storefront oriented, that you have to stay so many feet away from a storefront, and that kind of some things like that. But there's a lot of concerns there, and I just want the community to know we're trying to address those, and that's not just Leesburg. That's it's countrywide, worldwide, that those issues.
On that note as well, you should know too, I have a meeting set up with Commissioner Campione and the county manager Jeff Cole, and I've dubbed the Chief Hicks kind of as our homeless czar to help us with this issue. So plan to go have lunch with the county and continue this discussion with them as well. I think that's not this Thursday, but next.
Just a couple other things real quick. So we've talked about a little bit. I just want to throw out again that I think as we move forward with our budget and what we're looking at, that we look at maybe doing some residential facade grants, particularly on our corridors, to encourage people to do some improvements to the front of their homes. And related to that, I did take a drive with the city manager and the police chief last week, just to kind of look at some properties and express some of my concerns about the way some properties, residential properties, are being kept in Leesburg, and some of those things, I think, from what my impression was, is that some of those things, they are not permitted and they're being addressed, and through code enforcement, or will be addressed. But there may be some of those things that may not be against code, and that's pretty vague. But I want to bring up that I think we need to take a really close look at that, because if there are things that are unsightly that are occurring in our residential neighborhoods on properties that are permitted, and they're not prohibited at all, and we can't stop them from doing it, and they do deteriorate or detract from the neighborhoods, they cause property values to go down, or at least keep them from going up. I think we need to look at some code changes possibly. So that's just real general. I have a question about e-cigarettes at our recreation fields, and I was just curious: are e-cigarettes permitted? We don't allow smoking at our ball fields, do we? Or is smoking allowed?
There's no. Yes.
Smoking is allowed
outside of the bench areas. Yeah.
So
it can't be in the dugout. Can't be in the bleachers.
Okay, so I don't know what that is, but I got, personally, I know there's some people that still smoke, and e-cigarettes is something that people have gone to as well. But I was sitting in one of the stands the other night at a baseball game, and somebody's smoking an e-cigarette, and my son, who's not playing, is seeing that, and the other kids are seeing it, and I don't like it either. But I sure don't want my kids to see it, and so I know there's some debate between e-cigarette smokers, that they're not really cigarettes and they're not bad for you, whatever. But I want to know if I don't want them smoking them any more than cigarettes are allowed to be smoked, and I think cigarettes should be even farther away than being not just in the dugout or in the stands. That should be farther away than that, away from the kids that are running around.
Do you want us to bring a non-smoking ordinance before the commission?
Yes, and to include the e-cigarettes in that. And then the one last thing is, a couple years ago, I brought up cricket fields briefly in a meeting because I was approached by a group that we have one of the best cricket teams in the state of Florida here in Leesburg, and they were looking for a place to call home and to potentially bring tournaments. Well, South Lake County is building 2 cricket fields in their sports recreation complex. So we missed the boat on that one. I still encourage us to look at doing things like that, to think outside of the box, look at what's the trends, where our world is heading. It's a dramatically different world today than it was 30 years ago, even 10 years ago. This is a different world, and we got to catch up and be open-minded and not just throw ideas to the wind. Just ignore them when something that sounds out of the ordinary is mentioned. I think that we need to take a closer look, because Claremont's not building 2 cricket fields for no reason at all. It's for a reason. There's people that are playing. There's an article out that how the game of cricket is one of the fastest growing recreational activities in the state of Florida. And we were approached by one of the best teams in Florida to have one here. So let's just think a little bit more about these things, maybe in the future. So that's all I have tonight.
Mayor Rolbeck?
From code enforcement standpoint, the Pink House on Main Street, I think we almost were able to foreclose on that one, but they got away from us and paid it or something.
Yeah, he went into bankruptcy. Actually, he's paying his fine in dribs and drabs over a 5-year period.
Okay, like half the windows are busted out, so maybe we can take some more action on that
I believe
house.
they've got another pending case on
all right.
that, and we're just waiting for the time period to run so I can file another foreclosure and start over again.
Can we file anything in the bankruptcy that we lack adequate protection as a city, in any kind of way? I mean, that to get relief from the bankruptcy stay on that?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of adequate protection, because that entails some sort of lien that you've got a threat to, and that being a municipal lien that's been dealt with. It's a Chapter 13. He's dealt with it in his plan. And I think that we're still adequately secured based on the amount of the lien. There's a police power exception, but the case law is trending to where it says a code enforcement action is really not an exercise of the police power as much as it is an effort to collect a debt, i.e. the fine, and they apply the stay to it, even though if you just read it on the face, the police power exception ought to let you go forward. Because it's a foreclosure, they treat it like a bank foreclosure, which is why we ended up where we are. I went through that years ago with a case in Claremont. I represented the city down there as a special counsel and tried the same thing, and we got thrown out on our ear because he said, you're trying to collect a debt, not enforce a code.
Okay. On the smoking, I would be okay with just going entirely tobacco free, and then that would kind of eliminate anything, because these cigarettes still use tobacco, don't they?
Not necessarily.
Not
no.
necessarily? Okay. Well, anyways, we should include other tobacco products as well if we're going to do anti-smoking. There's a really nice article from Daily Commercial, and their editorial about the resource center and how a lot of people are doing parks and stuff, and those are good, but how important the resource center was and making a difference in people's lives. So that was great, and it was a great, for those who weren't there, we had the grand opening. It was a really nice event, and it's going to be a great asset. Echo Commissioner Bones' sentiments on the mall event. I never thought I'd see something like that here in Leesburg. A fashion show and all done up. So it was really, really great. Taste of Lake is tomorrow. It's been moved because it's going to be raining tomorrow night. It was going to be in Town Square. It's now going to be in the community building. So if you're planning on attending that, it's going to be a really good event. Bike Fest, we passed the ordinance tonight. I've expressed some concerns in the past. I met with staff and both the partnership and representatives from Gator, and I think we're all on the same page that we need to come up with a better way of looking at that component of the event going forward. And it was a little time crunch this year, but they've all committed to doing that. So probably have a discussion on that sometime in the future. On the videography that Commissioner Dennison brought up, I agree. I'm going to be at the high school on Thursday. They wanted to do some sort of tour, so I'll be talking to the principal about that since he hasn't been responding. And then in terms of the Arlington Ridge, so first, thank you all for coming. Sometimes I think, we may forget about you because I've been on the commission, this is my 4th year, and you don't ever come in here and complain about things because you got such a great thing going out there. So, but we are concerned. We do care about you. We're very lucky to have such a great community in Leesburg, and so just, I can assure you that Commissioner Dennison will not let us forget about you. So. So thank you for coming. And that's all I have tonight. Meeting adjourned.